have been looking forward to this conversation for over a year. We have one of the most busy women I know and one of the biggest hearted women I know on today's show. Dr. Crystal Campbell is one of my heroes. She is such a guiding light in the early childhood world. She is the president of SECA, and more than that, she's the executive director of Dorchester County First Steps, where she is making a difference day to day in the lives of families in South Carolina. So you are in for a real treat today as we talk about the issues facing early childhood and the joyful hope we can still take. Crystal, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love this. Diane, you are such a blessing to me. Such kind words, and I just want to throw them right back at you. I am so thrilled to, one, have met you and to now be collaborating today on our conversation about my love, one of my loves, early childhood. So I appreciate you to the highest. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. And I love seeing my three little pigs in your background.
Yes.
And it's just great to be able to do this conversation. So let's start by just giving people a sense of who Dr. Crystal Campbell is. Can you share a little bit about your adventures in learning and how you got to where you are today?
I would love to. One of my colleagues asked me when I became an advocate for young children, or advocate, well, she was speaking directly for early childhood, and I had to think for a minute, and then I remembered it started when I was 5, and because I have always had this sense of justice and doing the right thing. And I would stand up for those that I felt who were being bullied and, dare somebody to mess with my friend or to, if I saw someone who wasn't feeling up to par, I would come and do it. So that love of early childhood, I think, was instilled a long time ago. There was a time, Diane, that I wanted to be a pediatric nurse, along with being a lawyer and an actress and all that kind of stuff. I had all of those
Of
wonderful,
course,
wonderful things. I got to do some of them. I did not actually get to be the lawyer and the pediatric nurse yet,
there's
but
still time.
it's still time. And I hope to, and I have been on stage, and of course I had a captive audience with my children. I taught all ages, at least it feels that way. Never one at first grade, but I taught 4-year-olds in kindergarten. I cut my teeth with 2-year-olds
Bless you.
at
I
a
think that's the hardest.
no, I had a ball, and I still have fond memories of those 2-year-olds. Okay, and I could regale you with stories, and I tend to tell a lot of stories, so stop me at any point. But I have a story for everything, and I official paying, getting paid for with FICA and all that kind of stuff. I started with 5th grade.
Oh,
And
wow.
I never wanted, and I remember going in, I got hired, and as I was preparing, I was sitting in the kitchen with my mom, and I looked at her and I said, I don't think I can do this. And she looked at me, she said, yes, you can. You've always been teaching. I said, yeah, but they're 5th graders. I never wanted to go past 3rd grade. and and here I am getting ready to do 5th graders. And she said, well, it's still just teaching. And when she said that, it kind of opened up a door. And from that moment on, those 5th graders, to me, when I looked at them, it was just like kindergarten. I know they were 5th graders, but the same activities and opportunities that I would have done for 5-year-olds, they loved it too, and excelled in it and needed it.
That's
Um,
huge. And that's something I want us to get back to in a few minutes because I think that
sure.
often we graduate our kids from our early childhood programs and then ask them to go lockstep into school. And fifth graders need to play as much as 5-year-olds. 15 year
Yes,
olds
they
need to
did.
play.
Yes, they do.
25-year-olds need to play.
Thank you. I do it in my college classes.
Me too.
I do, and I set it up that way, as they move. Instead of calling it center time, like I would in kindergarten, in my 5th grade class, I called it menu. because I have an affinity for food too.
I
So
like
they would
that.
they would choose from the menu where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do, and the activities and things that I needed to teach were embedded in them choosing that menu.
That's perfect. So fifth grade, from fifth grade, where did you go?
Fifth grade, then I got the opportunity to, because I had to keep moving because we had a kindergarten teacher at the school, and kindergarten teachers tend to, die in their position. They don't
Yeah,
leave.
they stay.
So, so I got to go to an area of the state where I was a teacher specialist in kindergarten. So I was helping kindergarten teachers improve their quality, enhance their quality, making it, what it needed to be. And then got the opportunity ultimately to teach kindergarten, to teach 4-year-olds, 2-year-olds. I started with them. And I've taught up to eighth grade, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade science. Now that was an eye opener.
I can only imagine. And again, learning through play is so important with science too.
Exactly. And I pulled out my best stuff for these sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. And they would look at me like, okay, big whoop, and I am excited and they're not. So you know what? I had to pray hard on help me know how to reach them, And guess what it ended up being? Episodes of MacGyver. I was sitting there, and this was during the time that MacGyver was on television regularly. And I was watching, and I said, that's nothing but science that he was doing. Look, a lot of the things he got out of, like I'm thinking of one episode where he had the aluminum foil from the gum wrapper, and he used that to start the elevator because the elevator had stopped. That's science. So I would show a episode of MacGyver on Fridays. They earned the right to sit and listen to MacGyver, and then the following week we would do activities related to what we watched. Oh my God. Now they're paying attention to me.
Because you hit them where they lived and you gave them practical problem solving opportunities based
Exactly.
on something they cared about.
Yeah. I never made a scooter before, okay? We made
That's incredible.
all kinds of stuff like that. And I also, I enjoyed every aspect, every age that I've taught, I've loved. So I've taught at the College of Charleston as a senior instructor, all in education, early childhood particularly. And then I still work as an adjunct at the technical schools in our area.
And tell
So I
us
keep my hand in it.
what is First Steps, Dorchester County First Steps?
Well, First Steps in Dorchester County is one of 46 because every county has a First Steps office. And our mission is to help prepare children birth to age 5 for school success. That's the main goal. Now, what does that encompass? Well, it encompasses not only helping childcare facilities and family providers be the best that they can be as they provide care and encouragement and love and instruction to the children, but it also encompasses the well-being of the family. And so we look at what the needs are for the families in our community. And the ultimate goal for me as the ED is that we give back to the community. And the community is stronger, better, wiser. It's not a word, but I make up my own words, funner.
It's a great word.
Because of the pouring into the family and the family pouring back into the community. And we elevate each other as we go along. And I try to support the families in whatever capacity they need, and it varies. And our county, that's the beauty of First Steps, that every county has a First Steps office, and they are doing what helps and supports that county. And every county in South Carolina is different. Every last one of them. Every last one.
Well,
You
and each
know.
community, just like each child, has unique needs. And when we can address and meet those needs by
Mm-hmm.
building relationships and connections so that it's not doing something to the community, but doing it with, how much more
You go.
powerful is that?
That's it. That's it. And learning that, that thing. Um, in my county also, I keep telling those in other places that you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have a gatekeeper in the community in Dorchester, you know? And I make it my business to connect with people who can connect me with
To the
people
gatekeeper. That makes
and
sense.
make that work. Um, so the excitement is to do kind of a little bit of everything almost to make sure that they get what they need. Just, like parents that call. I may not be able to provide the service, but I know how to find somebody who can and connect them to that person or that group.
And that's absolutely huge. And then from being executive director, you've also been carrying the weight of a regional early childhood association for the last couple of years. Can you talk a little bit about SECA and what your role is with
Oh,
SECA?
yes, I can. I love SECA.
I
And
know you do.
it started, I'm gonna go back, way back, Miss Diane. Okay, I'm Dr. Diane. I'm going all the way back. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It started with lunch.
Okay.
One of my good, dear friends, as a matter of fact, right now at the technical school, he's my boss. His name was Dick Latham. Dick Latham called me one day years ago, in excess of 25. And he said, let's do lunch. I said, great, yay. So we join up. I get in his car and we ride and we ride and we ride and we ride. I said, where are we going for lunch? We end up in Columbia at a SECA meeting, which is the South Carolina Early Childhood Association meeting. Long story short, in that part, I got lunch. It was great because they were having their meeting, right? And they were getting new people. He didn't tell me any of this, but I got lunch and I also became membership chair, okay?
So you got voluntold, is what
I
I'm
got
hearing.
I sure did. And that was the beginning of it all. And falling in love with SECA, learning about SECA, and then I ultimately became president of SECA. Don't ask me years because the years all run together
That's
for me.
okay.
But it's been a minute. And from that, I became the South Carolina representative on the board for SECA, which is the Southern Early Childhood Association, and did that for 6 years, rolled off, became a fossil. I think I was a fossil for a year, and then on a fluke, became president. I
That's
was, well, I was
crazy.
member at large, and then it just kind of happened that I became president. There's a story behind everything, but I know everybody didn't want to hear the story. But just know that I give all glory to God because I did not plan it. It just happened. And and I have been so blessed to be the representative for the Southern Early Childhood Association, otherwise known as SECA, as their leader for the past 2 years. I got one more year as a former president that will come up, but that won't take place until 2026. So right now, I am the current president of SECA, and I love it. We cover 13 of the 14 states, southern states, and everything is alive. Our next conference is going to be in Huntsville. I want to go ahead and put that out there in case the early childhood
Absolutely.
people are listening and would love to come to Huntsville. We're going to be there. Oh gosh, I'm going to remember the dates. I'm not going to remember. I have to look it
It's
up.
okay. I'm
But
going to post it in the show notes. And
awesome.
I have spoken at this conference before. And I got to tell you, folks, it is a charmer. People are lovely, and you're going to walk away feeling really rejuvenated.
I hope so, because that's the goal. And building relationships, that's important to me. Building relationships and connecting and seeing where we have more in common than we have that's not. And as we
Exactly.
walk this walk with early childhood, I often have said that people think they know what to do with children birth to age 5 because they used to be a child birth to age 5, but there's technique and there's a system that works well with that age. And it's not just pushing content down on these babies. There is a need, an internal, God created need for children to play and to experience and have lots of opportunities for different things to be read to. It is not about letters and letter sounds. I promise you that will come if you put a strong foundation at the bottom. If you can't build a house on sand, and these babies need quality opportunities to play. And I know adult people get all upset because you said the word play, but I don't know one adult who wouldn't want their job to be playful. Those that are successful in doing what they need to do, there's a passion going on there. And that passion has to do with the fact that they love what they're doing. And that love what you're doing is play.
Absolutely. And honestly, something I've been thinking a lot about from my own experiences in the early childhood classroom is so many of the things that adults need today that would help them in business, in life, in managing the world, all stems from going back and talking to an early childhood educator. If we spent time learning from preschool teachers, we could fix the world right now,
Right
because
now.
all of the stuff you need to know, we taught you in early childhood, and we can still teach it to you, because it's all about wonder, curiosity, connection, play, and empathy.
Yes.
It's
And
figuring
caring,
out,
yes, caring about each other. you know?
and you learn that. Like, these are actual skills that you learn as part of early childhood. It's not, when we say play, and I'm putting play in quotes right now because, as you
Right.
said, there are adults who are listening or going play, but
Mm-hmm.
so much learning goes on in play, and we're building so many connections. I mean, think about a block center, for
There you
example.
go. There you go.
When you've got kids in a block center, you've got engineering going on, you've got spatial awareness, you've got computational thinking. You potentially have connections to the real world, especially if you've been reading to them. My favorite book
There you
being
go.
Dreaming Up, and you're teaching them
Yes.
about the different architects and giving them people that they can model and build after. So you've got all of that academic content, but you've also got collaboration. You've got critical thinking, you've got problem
Mm-hmm.
solving, you've got resilience,
You got
because it's going to fall
everything.
down and you're going to have
Exactly.
to pick it back up. You've got to learn to share, because you
Yes.
might have the best block, Miss Crystal, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out how to negotiate with you to get it.
Exactly. And I do take money. Just thought, my kids would learn that. There's, what can I trade you for? Perfect. Yeah. Let's talk about it. Diane, I'm going to have to share. I told you
Yes,
I share
please
by
share,
telling stories.
share.
Well, in my capacity some years ago as the early childhood coordinator for Dorchester District 2 in our area, I used to travel from school to school and work with the teachers in 4K and kindergarten and first, second, third. Well, one day I was going in between schools and I got stopped on the highway by this gentleman that was standing there with this pole. And on the top of this pole, it said, stop. And I did. And when I stopped, I had a lot going on in my mind that day, but it dawned on me, that man's got a lot of power. And all he did was hold that sign out and it said, stop. And then when I did stop and I looked around, I saw another man in one of those, don't help me when I don't say the right word, but it's not a dump, it's the thing where they pick up the dirt and then they twirl it
Oh,
and they dump it
the
somewhere else like
truck.
a digger, right?
Yeah, he was in one
And
of the,
and he was doing he
like
was
a
doing that.
bulldozer.
Now, yeah. And then over a little bit further away, there was a guy in a little container and he was inside and he was going up and he was cutting branches off the trees. And then I saw another guy, he was down in the ditch with a shovel and he was moving dirt and that kind of stuff. And the first thing that came to mind, and over in the horizon, sitting off on the side were a whole bunch of bricks, right? And then immediately I said, that is a live activity center of blocks.
Yep.
Because that's the exact same thing that my children did and are doing in the block area. When you go and get the dump truck, or you go and get that shovel or spatula or spoon because
Yep.
I've had them do that, and you're using it to what? Move the dirt or move the material, or you're taking the bricks, aka blocks, and building the structure using it so it doesn't fall down. And the whole idea is to get it as tall as we can get it without it falling. And if it does fall, that's even more joy because I get to start all over again and try to what? Build. Here we are with grown men, and probably some women too, but I saw the men playing with the same kinds of activity, toys, whatever, that I have with my 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds in that classroom in the block area.
Mm-hmm.
That is why the play is so important. And I did a little bit more research. You know that guy that stopped me and then told me he switched it and turned it and said I could go, and he was talking on his walkie and all that kind of stuff. They get paid big bucks. Just thought I'd share.
That's good to know.
Because I was once she gets paid just to stand there and turn that sound. That's all he had to do and talk on the phone. The walkie-talkie. I love when those kinds of experiences happen because it sets the stage for what they're going to do in life. Um,
Yes.
and it has nothing to do with gender really either, because another time, one of my little girls only wanted to play in blocks.
Uh-huh.
And it got to the point where the deal was, I need you to go to another center because I wanted her to be well rounded. I need you to go to another center for about 15 minutes and then the blocks are yours. And we made that kind of a agreement. But that little girl, and I won't say her name because y'all might know her, but that little girl now is an architect
That's amazing.
because I
And
follow
she
a good
had
many of my
that
children.
skill even then.
Even then, when you have something as a passion, it's
Mm-hmm.
our job and obligation as teachers to nurture that thing and help shape it so that it can propel them to greatness. You know,
100%. And every little child who comes through our doors, no matter what their background is, they are truly a beacon of hope, and they are a container of so much potential. And it takes a solid village,
you go.
including high quality early childhood for every child,
Hmm.
to uphold and recognize that potential. And you're showing
Definitely.
possibilities. You're offering invitations to play and to explore and to try out different roles. And it's the
Hmm.
same thing with the books that we share.
Oh yeah,
That's the
definitely.
whole importance of windows and mirrors and sliding glass doors in the books we share, is we're giving kids all of these possibilities to see themselves. And the more possibilities you have to see yourself and to see others, the broader your world is.
Broaden your world. That's it. The more opportunities you see, and the differences that
Yes.
are necessary to see that we're not all the same. And as an educator, it's my job to find what that baby, because every child that comes across my threshold is bringing their A game. Their parents are sending the best that they got, right? And they walk through those doors and they have their own thing inside that is supposed to be nurtured and strengthened, and along with what I know they're going to need as a foundation. So we come together and we provide that for the children and get them ready for the world that they're going to encounter. One of my major goals as an educator was that, you know, you, I am humble. I really am, but I love what I do. Okay. And what I wanted those babies, in case they didn't get somebody like me, in case their teacher wasn't like me, I wanted to build in them the intuitiveness, if you will, the opportunity, the ability, the knowledge and wisdom of them so that they would still do like I would do, even though that I'm not their teacher any longer.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that kind of success. If they walked into my classroom as an introvert, they were an extrovert by the time they left because all the power, all of the opportunity I put back on them. It wasn't me doing the learning. The classroom, yeah, that was my classroom, but it was their classroom in their world. So
Right.
they had to make the decisions about what would come in. I would purposely come in, and it didn't matter the age, I still do it now. They'll come and say, "What are we going to do today?" I said, "I don't know." I did know. But I would
Of
always
course
say,
you
"I
did.
don't know. I have no clue what we're going to do today. What do you want to do today? How are we going to do this? What are we going to do?" Those are the kinds of things that I shared with them and had them, they created the world, you know?
Yep. And I think some of the best teaching moments that I can remember were things where it was co-created or it was led by the children. And they asked the question, and I think I've said this to you before. My answer, if I didn't know the answer, was let's find out together.
Like that. There you go.
And
Mm-hmm.
by taking that kind of exploration, we still got the letter sounds in, we still got
Oh,
the
yeah.
numbers, we still got the science content. I mean, it all happened, but
Right.
I
Right.
might have packaged it differently. So if I've got kids who want to know about butterflies, then doggone it, we're going to wrap it
Go
all in butterflies.
butterfly.
And
We're
that's
going to
okay.
become a butterfly.
Yeah.
And do all of the things that go along with it. I had a baby one time who was looking. This was a 4-year old, and I forget what we originally were looking for, but I had said I don't know, and I went over to the computer and I said stand, and he was standing right behind me, and I'm looking, going through pictures, and he says, and I said, okay, what? Go back, and he went back to a picture of the submarine. Okay. Now, mind you, I was teaching in the Tri County area. The beach is what, 4 or 5 miles away, and this kind of stuff. And I used to teach on the beach, so I know that this happened. My baby had never seen a submarine. Well, I had to go get one and build it and make sure that he had a submarine. So
Of
the
course you
very
did.
next day, we were painting a refrigerator box and creating submarine. And the others who hadn't gotten the bug yet, because he really did, they were making the pictures of the whales and the sea life that we would see out of the porthole of that submarine. And
I love
then
it.
I had to get a periscope.
Of course you
So
did.
I researched it to figure out how to do a periscope. And I got all the material together and said, okay, we're going to make this periscope. The janitor at the school and the guidance counselor at the school got involved with it as well because both of them said that they knew everything about it because they were in the marine in the Navy.
Love it.
So they came in to take over making this periscope with the children. Can you imagine? And then I decided, well, we got to eat food related to this thing. So I had them making a dip we're gonna pretend it was the ocean. And then I got the little whale cookies, little crackers. And they didn't like
They didn't like the
dip.
dip.
For the dip.
But they tried it and you gave them an invitation.
Exactly. They had the invitation, and then that was one of the more popular center time activities, and it was outside. And unfortunately, we really only could see the sky, but every now and then birds would go by or something would happen, and they would get excited about it.
Oh,
Um,
that's so much
but
fun.
that's what the learning is. And I listen, as old as I am now, that still gives me the chills when I think about my babies doing that one. That's just one of thousands of things, you know?
Exactly. So, knowing you've been doing this for years, if you could wave your magic wand right now and ensure that sort of the ideal early childhood experience was available to every kid, what would go into curating that experience?
First thing would be helping the teachers catch the vision and knowing that they don't have to have all of the answers, that we can research the answers, and we just have to have a willingness to get out of the box. Okay? That classroom would be full of wonderful books and resources. It would have every kind of center from blocks to home living to manipulatives to the computer. And I got stories for every last one of those. And I want there to be lots of variety because one day it might be the kitchen, but the next day it might be a beauty parlor, or it might be a farm with real vegetables coming out and everything. I would see that every child would be celebrated for what they bring to the table. Every child. I'm going to know that child and know that family so well that I'm going to make sure that what they need to propel them to greatness is there. And I use that term a lot because that's what I see in them. You know, I could look at my children and say, you know, they're going to be an awesome, we talked about this earlier, CEO of a 500 Fortune company or
Yep.
whatever, or to be president, or to be the doctor, the lawyer, or the mommy with the children and knowing what to do and instill in their children to make sure that they were, because you know, every class had a mama, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Every class had a mama. But in addition to the material and that kind of stuff, I want an atmosphere of experiential learning. I want an atmosphere of curiosity. I want an atmosphere of fun and laughter and joy. And I want my classroom, and it's always been this way, Diane, that on Saturday morning, they get mad with their parents because they forgot to get them up to
For
catch the bus or
school.
get to school and be with Miss Crystal.
That was
That's
always
what
the
I want.
best. I
Hmm.
agree.
That's what I want. And when the kids, I was usually there till 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and a lot of them wanted to stay because we were still learning, we were still having fun. This is a nonstop kind of situation, you know. Um, my godson just came to the door a few seconds ago, but I told him to wait for a minute. But he's in there playing, and I can hear a Beyblade sliding across the floor right now. uh,
So, what are some of the biggest issues that are keeping us from that vision?
People wanting to do to children, to do unto children, instead of allowing children to be children for a little while longer. You know, there's that opportunity, and we're not all going to see it because you can't open up the tops of their heads and actually see it. But every opportunity, every experience, everything that that child does is wiring the brain and causing it to be a lifelong way of thinking, you know? And I'm seeing a lot of people who suffer from not knowing, being lonely in the midst of a whole bunch of people, having, you know, what we're calling now and putting into mental health issues, issues around what we've called ACEs. And there's a lot of conversation. I can have a whole bunch of conversations about all of that. But the bottom line is, whatever we do from neonatal to age 5, and maybe even beyond, but definitely by 5, because in my world it goes up to 8. But up until then, guess what? That's setting the stage for the rest of their life. It
Absolutely.
sets the stage, you know?
And I think you're right to extend it to 8
Yeah.
because I think that we cut, that's part of the problem is we cut it off like it's arbitrary that age 5 you're good to go. And
Mm-mm.
5, 6, 7, 8 still needs to play. As
There
you
you
and I
go.
said earlier, so do middle school, high schoolers, adults. We all need it, but we really need to create that climate of joyful learning
Hmm.
because kids grow on their own timetables.
There you
And
go.
it takes some longer to learn to read and to write
Hmm.
and to do the
Hmm.
math, but they're still learning and they
Exactly.
need to feel valued and to have opportunities to explore and to fall down and to succeed.
And to keep testing things till it either
Mhm.
works or they find that okay, I've got to adapt this somehow or make this look a little different. And capitalize on their strengths. Stop talking about the deficits and they can't do this. And you know what piece of research that really bugs me? I hope this doesn't cause your program not to come on anymore, nor to pay attention to it, but I'm real. You know what piece of research
Tell me.
aggravates me to no end? That piece of research that says if you're not reading by the time you're in the third grade, that you're going to end up in jail.
Yeah, I
I got a
agree.
problem with that.
Yeah, I agree.
And there is this thing called self-fulfilling prophecy that
Hmm.
because you speak it out of your mouth, guess what? There are forces out there that cause that kind of thing to happen. That child's thinking, and they're hearing it, you know? And I think too, the learning how to read deal has been around for a long, long time. And Diane, you and I learned how. And the other children will learn how. They've made learning to read such a scientific bunch of mess. And I'm sorry, I just there's so many pieces to it when it's all really read to me. Let's talk about the book and help me understand what's going there and comprehend what's in the reading. Because calling out the words is one thing. There are lots of children that can call out words. They really can. All right. But can they understand what they're reading? Because that's what I'm going to give you another example. I have a good friend who's head of HR at Boeing in our area. And she told me some years ago that there were a lot of people losing the job because they couldn't comprehend the manual for putting the plane together. Now, that was striking to me because the manual is written on an eighth grade level. Can they read the words? Sure, they could. They
But they
read the
couldn't
words,
comprehend it.
but they couldn't comprehend. So, what good is reading if you don't understand what you are reading? We've got a whole bunch of people right now that are not walking and being critical thinkers. I want my children to be critical thinkers. I want them to know the
Absolutely.
difference between an opinion, the fact, and truth, because all three of those are different, and
Yes.
help them provide with them the opportunity to what? To know the difference and be able to identify the difference and then live knowing the truth.
I think you hit it. You said earlier it's about laying the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And, reading, I do like the idea of strands of literacy that, we're connecting all of these things. But I think what's happened is we've gone so far and we've seen it in our careers. The pendulum swings. And
Right.
we've gone so far into thinking about phonics and phonemic awareness that we've forgotten the strand, which has to start with the joy. And it's the read to you, it's the spending time with it. And you can teach those things within that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for me, one of the things that frustrates me is I've had students who are so caught up in their canned curriculums that they're handed and packaged that
Yeah.
it's structuring for you exactly what you're supposed to do every moment and scripting it. And what falls to the wayside is the joy of reading.
The joy, just the
and
love.
and the love of reading. And I think that, I always, with my little guys, we would do reading in the morning, we would read in circle time, we read during snack. I was always available on the floor during playtime if somebody wanted a story. I'd bring a book in. They had
Yeah.
free reading time because we would rotate. I see all your books behind you, you see all mine behind me.
Yes.
We had bookshelves in every classroom in every center, and we rotated the books to go thematically so that they got that visceral experience of holding a book in their own hands. And we
Mm-hmm.
created books, like we made
Exactly.
our own books. The kids were authors, and those books got published, sent home to their families, but also
Definitely.
enshrined in our school library so
There
that they
you
could
go.
check out their own work. All of
I
that
love it.
into it. And it's part of building that joy that comes with reading. And then, as you said, the critical thinking piece. So
Mm-hmm.
much of the way our education system is set up is it's set up to a paradigm that worked 100 years ago when you were sending people into factories and it was
Yep.
put in this
That's it.
widget, or, follow this specific path. That's not
Yep.
the world we live in today.
No,
And it's
it's
not the
not.
world our babies are going to inherit. So to me, it's so much more important to be focused on what's going to help you collaborate effectively with the humans around you, be
Mm-hmm.
creative problem solvers, be critical thinkers, be willing to take risks
There you
and to
go.
innovate. Like if we can do those things and communicate, because you have to be able
Yeah.
to talk
Oh
and
yeah.
write
Oh
and
yeah.
share.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Mm-hmm.
to me are the skills that we're really preparing them for. And the other stuff should be packaged around that, not the other way around.
Not the other way around. I taught every child that left me, no matter what the age, they knew how to read and they knew how to comprehend. And
Same.
I did it primarily through their writing.
Mm-hmm.
When they would make their own book or write about an experience or write, they would
Right.
draw the pictures depending on what level they were on. And sometimes they would dictate it to me and I would actually write the words and that kind of thing. But the creativity and the outlet for creative expression, it was just phenomenal. I'm thinking of one year with some 4-year-olds. We started in August, that first day, because I've always done that. And we spend like 40 minutes, sometimes an hour, creating stories and writing stories. And when I first started with this group, they, 10 minutes in, and they said, my hand hurts. We're going to do this any longer. And so I had to revamp and go back, and we had to do the strengthening, the
Mm-hmm.
physical development for the fine motor, and get those fingers strong enough to hold the utensils that they were using for sustained. To make a long story short, this was in August 19th. I started this before Christmas. These guys were, when they were saying things to me like this, because I would spend that time right before lunch, and it would be time to go to lunch, and they said, well, we'll eat later. I got to finish my story. It went
Isn't that
from
amazing?
5 minutes. Yeah. And it's all because I put those activities in that would help strengthen. And then we played, we read good literature, rich literature. I brought it to life. We acted it out. They acted it out. I acted it out. I say I sang some of the books. Okay, I remember I know an old lady who swallowed a fly, but it was another version of it,
Yep.
and I was making that up, and I was making it up as we were cleaning up, Diane, cleaning up the room, and I was singing it and making it up as I was doing. And when I got through, they clapped, and then they said, "Do it again." I said, "I can't."
Right. I don't remember what I just did.
I said, "You guys come and make it up with me and sing with me." Those are the kinds of experiences our babies need in order to propel them again to greatness. There's greatness in all of our children. Stop letting people, and I don't know who I'm speaking to, but stop letting people speak negatively over these children. They
Yeah.
come with a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and ideas and just ability to do a lot of good stuff. And it's our job to direct it and to nurture it and to strengthen it and to fix it and direct it. Make it do what it's supposed to do.
Yep.
Can I make another analogy
Please
before we
do.
hang up? And I've been sharing this. I do a lot of training in the area and stuff. So I train all the time. And I told them, I said, have you noticed how easily our children learn profanity? Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever thought about that? They hear certain words at home or on television, preferably not at school, but they can come into the school world, not, and use those words and use it in context. If those words can be learned, and this is the philosophy according to Crystal in the world, that they know it, they can use it, and identify it. They can't spell it, but they can use it. They understand the context because there's emotion attached to it. And those same words that we know they need to know for appropriate reading, those sight words, those words that are about the room, the door, the chair, all of those wonderful words. Guess what? They can learn those as well and identify those words and be able to use those words in context when we attach it to emotion. And that's what we do when we read. It's not just reading the book, it's reading the book
And
and
living
enjoy.
the book.
Yeah.
You have
And
to be willing
fun.
to make yourself silly and not worry about it because the kids love it and they
That's
engage with
it.
you. I
That's
think
it.
every early childhood, every education program needs a component of learning how to read aloud and storytell
Mm-hmm.
effectively.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's
In
drama.
my in my my world of getting trained, I knew it already, but we did have a course like that. And we spent the entire semester reading children's literature, bringing it to life, and really reading it, not just knowing that it existed, you know?
Yep.
Really, really taking it. And we can't judge books by the cover either. You have to really read the book in order to understand what's going on and why.
And also recognize that just because something is the book you've loved and used for 30 years in teaching, it's not necessarily the book that that baby sitting in front of you needs. And there is always a book that's going to be the right book. You just have to keep introducing and trying. And
That's it. That's
that's where
it.
the importance of rich, diverse literature comes in because you're
Mhm.
going to share books from all kinds of cultures. You're going to share from all kinds of authors, all kinds of genres. So
There
you're
you
going to
go.
have nonfiction and poetry and realistic fiction and fantasy, folk tales, all of that. And
Hmm. Hmm.
somewhere along the line, you're going to engage that kid. And you may never know because that's the other thing about what we do is we get them for this very short window,
Right.
but we're planting seeds and
Yes, we are.
those seeds are what matter. So the
Yep.
last
Yep.
question for you for today, and I want to bring you back on because this has been so much fun for me, but
I've had a great time too.
thinking about the struggles that are real for early childhood programs right now,
Hmm.
between a administration that is on the warpath against diversity, equity, and inclusion, budget cuts, funding grants that we don't know are there, Head Start in
Hmm.
peril.
Hmm. Hmm.
These are all realities that teachers are living with. And there's
Hmm.
a huge uncertainty right now.
Lots.
How do we help those teachers and those families and those programs? What are some things we can do as a community to continue to support some of the most important educators we have?
One, and I've been saying this as president of SECA and in my capacity as ED for Dorchester with all the other EDs and in life, is that if it was the right thing to do prior to our current situation, it's still the right thing to do. It's still important to care for children as individuals. It is still, I can't even emphasize it enough for us to care about each other. And we learn that birth to five, okay? You don't pop out knowing empathy. It's a learned skill. It's
Yes.
a learned skill to care about somebody else because when it's all said and done, we are all human
Yes.
and we have faults, we have good things. We again look at what's good and do what's right. Our children, not only those that are typically developing, but even those who may have differing needs, we've got to teach every child individually because every child deserves that. Every child. And when I say child now, it's going beyond just early childhood.
Of
Every
course.
child has a strength. And then that child grows up to be an adult. They still got strength. They've got an idea. They've got something. There's always something in them that's great. And we need to accelerate, and let that happen. The diversity is a natural because we're all different. I have two siblings, okay? We're all girls. We are so different from each other,
Yes.
But the commonality is that we have a love of God. We have loved our parents. We love, eating. That's the common thing. We got that thing. But we're all doing something different. And that doesn't make it better or worse. It just makes it
Different.
different. And that different should be celebrated. I need to know that when I go into a place and you're there and whatever you're doing in that place, I have the opportunity to do it as well. That's where that equity piece comes in, where it's equal to this. I get the same opportunity. I won't be disqualified for it because I'm full figured. I'm not going to be disqualified for it because my hair is gray. I'm not going to be disqualified for it because I wear glasses. Do you see what I'm saying?
I
All
see
of those
exactly what you're
extraneous
saying.
things that I can't control, that I don't
Yeah.
have.
Things outside
That
your control don't keep you from
exactly,
opportunity.
exactly. That shouldn't limit me from being a part and wanting to do it. And even if it goes against what you think we should be doing, that's your problem. I
Right.
still should have the opportunity to do that. And I may be different, but I still need to be included. I still need to be a part. When I got my class together, one is creating the environment so that we all love each other because we're all in this together. We all got to get out of kindergarten. We all have to get out of sixth grade science. We have to get out of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the commonality. We're going to work together to propel everybody where they need to be. And I'm not going to leave unless I reach back and pull you if you're back there. And don't you leave me, reach up and grab me so we can go because we're all going together. Wouldn't it be wonderful if our world right now loved everybody and we didn't pigeonhole people into certain categories or look down on folk because they didn't have or do it the way that we do it? Those behaviors are learned, and those learned behaviors are going to be the detriment to us all as an existence as human beings.
And that's where we have to return back to our early childhood roots
That's
because,
it.
as you said at the start, that's where we learn it.
That's
And
it.
it's harder for adults to make those changes, but it can still be done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is. And we have to have a desire and a want to.
Yes.
You know, you've got to do that. And I know we have back in the day, my dad used to use a term called dog eat dog. It was a dog eat dog world.
Yep.
Well, guess what? If we do it right, all the dogs get to eat.
I like that.
You know, and
Yeah.
it used to bug me, And I don't, another term I don't like, the have and the have-nots. Everybody should have
Yeah.
and have to the ability that they can do what they can do. And it bothers me. And if I had to fix something, if I could use my magic wand to fix something, I think that would be the biggest, that we care enough about everybody on this planet that we help each other get to where we need to be. Because it doesn't hurt. And there's a four-letter word. I'm gonna use it. You ready? It's a
Yep.
four-letter word. Put it down. Be kind.
Yes.
Be kind. It is not going. We want to teach our children how to be kind, so that the connections in the brain are already set. That's my kindness connection. Kindness connections kicking in, and I'm going to make sure that my friends have a friend,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm being kind to the people around me.
And that's where empathy and kindness walk hand in hand in creating that better, more just society for everybody.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it would be. I get excited thinking about the possibility of that kind of You know, I'm not political at all, but I did make a comment one time. I'm gonna share it with you. You can cut it out if it doesn't work. I'm okay with that. I said, I bet you a good many, if not all, of our people in Congress and in the politics, I bet you they didn't go to kindergarten. We need to go back and research this because if they had gone to kindergarten, I think they'd be nicer to each other.
It does make you wonder what their early childhood experience or lack thereof was. I've had the same thought. I think it would be an interesting research study.
I think so too. But I'm okay with that. But that was one of the things I said. Let's just be nice.
All
That's
right,
all I
Dr.
heard.
Crystal, I have one final question for you because I like to
Oh,
end with this one. What brings you hope?
okay. The first hope is in God. I know that my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is going to take care of all those things that concern me. That's my biggest hope. And I pray that I get to see him turn that around so we all do love and care and are kind about. The other hope that I have is for people like you who think enough of our career and our ability, especially with early childhood, to bring it to life and open it up so that more people can learn about what it really is and how it works. That's my hope. My hope is for those of us, and what gives me hope is that we're not being silent. We're talking and we're sharing and we're letting people know what's right with regards to early childhood and everything else, but we're focusing on early childhood. And I think if we get it right there, if we get it right in the beginning, the rest of it will fall in place. And we wouldn't see some of the things that we're seeing now.
I think
That's
you're
my
right.
hope.
That's a good
That's my
hope.
hope.
Dr. Crystal Campbell, thank you so much for joining us on the Adventures in Learning podcast. We will not let another year go by without having you back.
I hope not.
Thank you for being on the program. It has been so much fun talking to you today.
It's been fun talking to you too, and I hope I did okay for you. I love this. I've never done a podcast before, so thank you for allowing me to have the opportunity.